morning, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Daily Morning Show, the Morning Tip-Off, brought to you by Basketball News. Today, I've got a very special guest with me here, the very lovely Sidra, co-host of Dishes and Duns on Basketball News. What's up, girl?
I woke up in a panic because I was like, I knew that this started at 8, but in my head, 8 was 8:30. So I woke up at 7 because I was like, oh, I'll just do some work, make some coffee, relax.
Yeah.
And then it was like 7:55, and I was like, oh my god, it's 8. Yeah. No, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you for waking up early to be here. I appreciate that.
I'm up early every single day now because, well, we're back at school, so now you guys know what I look like in my Zoom classes. I have not changed out of this sweatshirt in like 2 days. So
that's what. Okay, listen. If we're judging that during COVID, guys, I
was wearing this at the last live with Dishes and Dimes. I
wear my sweater all the time. This is what I sleep in. It's cold in my house. I'm anemic as hell, so this is what I'm gonna wear. Okay, and I'll beat my face up in the morning to look like I.
I mean, your the highlight on your nose.
I look like Rudolph.
So no,
it's
on
shiny.
Point.
But you know, when you don't have a nose, you've gotta work with some makeup.
You can have some my nose.
You gotta work with some Fenty Beauty.
I've got a nose.
You got a beautiful nose. Okay, let's actually get to some news in the NBA.
Oh yeah,
something really major happened that's crushing my heart and my soul. Because James Harden was actually traded, and did I actually think that he would be a Raptor? No, but it was fun.
Do you ever think that they're gonna be Raptors? No.
That's a very fair point. But it's fun to talk about. But to me, the asking price would have been way too high. Siakam would not have been enough. And there is no chance on God's green earth that Masai Ujiri would have given up 7 years of draft capital to get James Harden.
Dude, what did they give him? They gave Brooklyn or not Brooklyn. They gave Houston four first round picks.
They gave them so basically
that's insane.
They gave them the most amount of picks that they can do. So
that's insane to me.
Yeah, I want to break down what the trade is here. So
yeah, there was player after player after player switching.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was oh wait, what? When did Indiana get a It was I was where did Cleveland come? Cleveland was just hi, we need another big. Actually, we don't have enough.
Yeah, we need to talk to Cleveland.
Jared,
we need to
everyone's Andre Drummond. I'm no.
Oh my god! As someone who has an Andre Drummond jersey, and listen, this is. I told you guys I was a Pistons fan before I was a Raptors fan. So I have an Andre Drummond jersey because when he first joined the Pistons, everybody was like, this is the next Ben Wallace. This is going to be huge. And if you think about it, years ago, he was a big deal. When he first started, he had double-doubles every night, and he was just getting better.
And he would have been drafted when we took Terrence, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think.
So it would have been the year after
7, right? In the draft.
He was the 10th pick. If I'm not making this up. Honestly, I'm pretty sure what happened was the Raptors drafted 8th and they picked up Terrence Ross. And there was a lot of talk about people wanting Drummond. And so I was listening to all the talk. Because if you remember, Jonas Valanciunas was the Raptors' 5th pick in 2011. But he didn't play until 2012 because he missed the first year with the Raptors because he was in Lithuania and there were a bunch of rights and stuff with the league. So he didn't come until the next year. So I remember people really wanting Drummond because they didn't know what Valanciunas would be. And then we have Masai Ujiri telling JV, you're better than Andre Drummond, which is always going to be seared into my memory. Also, no offense, Sidra, I love you, but if I have to watch Stanley Johnson and Andre Drummond, I'm going to hate my life. I do not want to suffer Pistons fans have suffered.
Yeah, 2012, 2013 Pistons.
Oh,
wait, that's when Drummond came on. Yeah, no. I don't want to watch that either because that's when I got annoyed of the Pistons. Pistons East. Somebody in the comments said Piston East. That's funny.
Pistons East is funny.
No, I don't want to watch that again.
God. I'm not interested.
Wait, can you tell me lay down what happened.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So let's
cut you off.
No worries. So we've got James Harden, who went to Brooklyn.
Okay.
Then right now, Karis LeVert from Brooklyn went to or is in Indiana.
Okay.
Indiana gave up Victor Oladipo, and he is now on Houston. So we've got Harden from Houston to Brooklyn.
Why would they do that?
Well, that's a good. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because to me, I think that Houston just wanted to get off of some money because Victor Oladipo is an expiring contract.
That's true.
They don't really have to re-sign him. He's looked good to me. It's just like if you want Victor Oladipo or Karis LeVert, like I don't know that there's that much of a difference between the two of them, except for the fact that one of them has a few more years left on his contract, and the other one is an expiring who also has a bigger name, right? I think people know who Victor Oladipo is because he was an all-star at one point prior to his injury. He had that great series against, the Cavs. But to me, it's probably because Tillman Fertitta is just a cheap.
Is it Fertitta? I thought it was Fertitta this entire time.
Fertitta. He's, I don't want to name him after. Okay, fine, we'll call him a Fertitta. But he's cheap. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it. But here's what else they got. And this is why I think the asking price was insane. So people were talking about, well, like, what is James Harden's value? Like, oh, look, he's not playing well. They're tanking his value. And like I said yesterday, I do not believe that to be true. When you're a player of James Harden's caliber, people know what they're getting. And you cannot compare it to Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's trade value was not high at the time because nobody had seen him play in a year.
Yeah.
We watched James Harden put up 44 in his first game when you guys were talking about, oh, he's at a strip club, da 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 da. And then obviously his play seemed to go downhill, but that's because he wanted out. And we saw that with Vince Carter when he was a Raptor, right? Like he went from averaging 17 points to averaging 28 points with no change besides team. It's not like he got healthy or something happened. No, he just was in a situation he wanted to be in. The Nets, which is so funny that we're talking about two Nets trades. I didn't even realize that until right now. New Jersey Nets and then the Brooklyn Nets. But so to me, I think with this James Harden, okay, so the trades that Brooklyn gave up. So I don't know if the Nets just have an aversion to the NBA draft, if they just find it boring, if they're just not interested in that, they don't like the vibes of a draft. I don't know, but they seem to not like picks. So this is what they gave up for James Harden. Whew. So 4 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
One of those is from Cleveland, because remember, Cleveland came in and got Jared Allen. I didn't mention that. Cleveland has Jared Allen. One of those came from Cleveland, but it's the Milwaukee Bucks pick. All right, so those are the 4 draft picks that were included, and then 4 pick swaps. So basically, because of this Stepien rule, you cannot trade back-to-back picks. So I cannot trade you the 2021 pick and then the 2022 pick. Can't do back-to-back.
Oh.
Teams have to have a pick every other year. So if you've given up 2021, you can now not trade 2022.
So they did a lot more than what I previously thought for.
Exactly. So that's why they gave up only 4 picks when you're looking at it, because they can literally only give up 4 picks. And then in the in-between years, so like I said, if you give up 2021, you can't give up 2022. So in those in-between years, what they did is they gave up a pick swap, which means whichever is the better pick, Houston gets. So if the Nets have a worse record than Houston, and Houston saying, I would prefer your pick as opposed to mine, they get to do that. So that's the pick swap. So basically, from now until 2028,
is a lot for James Harden.
From now until 2028, the Nets don't have control over their draft. They're either giving up the pick entirely, or if they have a worse record, they still don't get it. So if they fall into the lottery, if shit hits the fan and they just don't have a good pick, they've given it up. Now,
how confident?
The NBA also has another rule called, I don't know what it's called. It's like the 7-year rule. So basically, to save these GMs from themselves, Stepien rule was to save a guy named Stepien who screwed up his draft capital. But to save these GMs from themselves, another rule that the NBA has is you cannot trade a pick that's more than 7 years out.
Okay.
Right? So for that reason, this was the most amount of draft picks the Nets could have possibly included. 4 pick swaps and 4 first rounders is the most. It actually exceeds the most because one of the picks came from Milwaukee, right? But it is the most amount of picks that they could have given out, which means they could not have put any real protection on these picks. So if shit really, you know how like you can put like, you can say, well, if it falls in the lottery, we're not giving it to you. Like you can put like a lottery protection on it. If it falls into the lottery in 2021, we're going to keep it and then you can get it the next year. They can't put any of that because they cannot roll over the picks because they've already given up the mass amount of picks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like there's no protections they could have put. There are ways around it. As someone pointed out yesterday, I forget who it was, so I'm sorry, but someone pointed out yesterday, they could have put protections if it said like, if the pick is in the lottery, then it converts to 2 second rounders or something like that. So those are protections that they could have put, but not in terms of like first round picks. Because you can't say if it falls in the lottery, you don't get our pick this year, you can get it next year. They cannot do anything like that. And they really don't have picks to now trade either. They can't.
So they really just gave it all up for the next 7 years.
All away.
There's nothing else.
So my question to you, is this a good deal for Brooklyn?
Short term or long term?
Both.
Short term, probably. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, short term is James Harden at the end of the day. Not talking about if Kyrie's playing or Kyrie's not playing or whatever's happening to them. It's James Harden and Kevin Durant. Like, how could you really go wrong? It's, as a basketball fan, that's going to be fun to see.
Okay, let me ask this. Are they now the favorites in the Eastern Conference?
Probably. Yeah.
Are they now favorites to win it all?
Oh, absolutely not.
So was it a good trade? I mean,
how much
it is. There are lots of.
How much success have they seen? Right? I guess Brooklyn will go a little bit farther than they have in the last few years.
That's fair.
Maybe they'll make it out the East.
They better. If you do this trade and you don't make it out the East, what?
Jeez. They literally gave up. Okay, you know what? I don't know how to make decisions. And I'm like very scared to make decisions. So I personally, if I was a GM, probably would never do that. But then if I worked in the front office of the Raptors, I'd never give DeMar up anyway. So we'd never have a championship. So I'm obviously not good at what I'm doing. Like, they know what they're doing. It's James Harden at the end of the day. And I think we're forgetting that. Yeah, like there's this whole drama going on, but it's James Harden.
You're right. And you know what? What I'll say to Brooklyn doing this is Brooklyn making this deal is different than 27 other teams making this deal, or even 28 other teams making this deal.
They're stacked now.
Not only are they stacked though, but think about the market. Like if you're Milwaukee, if you're Oklahoma, if you're Indiana, if you're Toronto, you cannot give up your draft for the next 7 years because you can't like reset in free agency. Like what we saw with the Nets right now is they did this 10 years ago, right? When they traded for KG and Paul Pierce. And I see a lot of people likening it to that. And like, there was a difference in that, like those men were like 45 years old. Like Paul Pierce was never as good as James Harden, right? So there was a difference
the prime
in
of their game.
And so there's a difference there. But also we saw them mess that up in a way that like 90% of the league would not have been able to recover from. Yeah. At least not in this amount of time. And what did they go do? They went and they got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in free agency. So I think
and we thought that was a super team. When we heard that, we're like, dude, that's amazing. How do you
legit? Compete? Like
and then you add James Harden on top of that.
Exactly.
They're terrifying now.
To me, I kind of see it on Brooklyn's end being like they don't care about the draft because they're not a market that needs to care about the draft.
Yeah.
In the way that every other team needs to be good at drafting and needs to maintain those draft picks in order to improve. When you're Brooklyn, you can be the laughingstock of the NBA, and Kevin Durant, who is arguably the best player in basketball, one of the best players in basketball, is still going to say, I want to go play for you, and I'm going to bring another all-star along with me.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's not something that the rest of the league has. So I think everybody else has to be more mindful of the picks that they have. Whereas Brooklyn could just be like, yeah, take them all, right? And act like picks are dollar bills and they're James Harden at a strip club.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you have James Harden, do you really care about what rookie is going to enter your team? Probably not.
I think should, because this is 7 years out, right? So I think
other for 7 years. Like, I mean, that's long term for sure.
Because like, okay, so you have James Harden and you like all of these. Okay, not all of them, but Harden and Durant are over the age of 30. Durant just coming off of this major injury. Who knows if Kyrie is even going to be playing basketball this season?
Does that matter for those two guys? For those specific, I know that age is a huge thing usually, but does that matter for James Harden and Kevin Durant?
I think it matters to a certain extent. Like, I think that like both of their games are going to age well just because Kevin Durant is an insane human being. Like, I don't understand Kevin Durant. Like, my brain doesn't compute what he is as a basketball player. And then James Harden, I think his game is going to age well, but they're both they're both born in 88. So what does that make them, 32? So in 7 years, they'll be what, 39? I don't know that they're doing anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's going to matter.
Think about LeBron though. In 3 years, do you see his game like depleting?
Yeah, but I don't know that like Harden is LeBron. Like, I don't know that I can say that to them.
I think Kevin can. You can have that conversation about Kevin.
A major injury, right? And I think that like we have to take that into account too. And it's just like, I don't think that they made this deal thinking that far in advance. I don't know that they made it thinking 7 years in advance. I think they were like, we want to win right now, and we're willing to do that, because if we win right now, we put Brooklyn on a map, right? Like, because Brooklyn was a laughingstock. Imagine if they win as the Brooklyn Nets for the next 2-3 years. If they're like title contenders for the next 3-4 years,
they definitely.
Then after Durant and Harden leave, they're the hottest free agent destination, and people are going to want to come to them. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I think that that's what they're thinking. They're like, we don't need the draft. We're not going to be a rebuilding team. We're not going to want that, young guy to come in, and we're not going to do the whole James Wiseman thing and all of that. We want superstars here. So we're not going to get superstars from the draft. We can only get superstars from free agency. And so to me, that's the only reason why I'm thinking they give up all of this. But to talk about just some of their stuff right now, I don't think that this team is a title contender. I mean, okay.
Really?
I think this team is a title contender.
I was like,
I had to catch myself there. I don't think this team are favorites to win at all.
Oh yeah, no. I think the Lakers are still gonna probably win.
I struggle with this idea that DeAndre Jordan is your only center and your best center. He is not good enough. Their defense is going to be abysmal. So to me, this James Harden trade, I kind of see it, and I'm like, okay, prior to James Harden, if Kyrie and KD were both healthy and playing, they had the best offense in the league, and they had a bad defense. Now they bring in James Harden.
Still accurate.
They have the best defense in the league, and their defense got worse because they gave up Jared Allen, and they got James Harden, and
James Harden's just gonna like walk around on D.
Right, and it's just like, so your offense was never the issue. So it's like, when you're trying to fix the problem, is it just adding more of what you're good at and still and getting worse at what you're bad at? How does that help? So that's my entire thinking is just like, I don't know that they're favorites. Whereas like, if you put Harden on Philly, I would have called them favorites. And I can't, who's gonna guard AD? Who's gonna guard them?
Well, to you, no, I get it.
Is going to be their best defender. He will be their best perimeter defender, and he will be he is their best perimeter defender, and he will be their best interior defender, because I just don't know that DeAndre Jordan is it at this point in his career.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I think, but do you think that they'll get out the East?
I to me, their rosters, it's tough, because to me, it's like, you can have, to me, it's tough because I also kind of look at this as like Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving are not the most chill, level-headed, go with the flow guys. They all kind of have egos, and we've seen it play out in their previous stops. And I wonder how it works together. I don't have really any questions about Kevin Durant. We've seen him fit on a super team, and we've seen the lesser role. We haven't seen James Harden do that since he's left OKC and become an MVP.
That's true.
He hasn't been able to coexist with any superstar on his team, right? When Chris Paul went, didn't work. When when Dwight Howard was there, it didn't work. And he had a bad relationship with both of them and was the reason why both of them left, right?
Yeah.
Or were forced to leave, essentially. So I don't see how Kyrie Irving and James Harden are going to coexist because they play a very similar style of basketball. They have, an insane high usage percentage. They like to ISO, like to dribble the bleep out of the ball. And it's like, what is the other going to do when, unless they change their style of play, unless we're seeing
you only have it for 24 seconds, what's going to happen?
What is going right? Are we going to see the offense that we got from James Harden in his entire time in Houston, which is just like dribble, take a crazy shot, right? You know what I mean?
And then take the next few games off.
And then what is Kyrie going to do? How is he going to fit in with that? He came to he didn't want to be under LeBron James, right? He didn't want to be second fiddle to LeBron. He didn't want to coexist with Jason and Jalen. That didn't work for him. That team was terrible when he was there, right? And then they went on to make a conference finals run the year after he left. I just don't know that Kyrie and James Harden, I don't know that they consulted Kyrie on this. And it's unless your plan is to move him to improve your team in some way, how is he really going to coexist with James Harden? Because I don't think they have a lot of time to really make it work. And then the third thing, I'm pretty sure I've said 300 things. So the 301 first thing is it's a pandemic. I used the real word and didn't call it a panorama.
Or a panini.
Or a panini. Or Panera bread. No, but that's real. And we don't know what's going to happen to this season. We don't know what's going to happen.
But also, what's Kyrie? Work? There's something happening with Kyrie at the moment as well. Mm-hmm. So does it matter that Brooklyn has all these players when there's something happening? There's drama happening with two of their best players. Kyrie doesn't really. I mean, we all saw the video of Kyrie hanging out with family and friends. Of course, to me, it's first of all, they shouldn't be playing in at all. But I mean, there's something off with him this season. Of course, I'm always on the player's side in this situation. But if this drama with Kyrie continues, then what does it matter if you're all in for James Harden now? Without Kyrie, I don't see you getting that far anyways. I don't know.
I get what you're saying. And it's you need all guys to be firing on all cylinders, because if they're going to make it past the other teams in the East, and if they're going to make it past the Lakers in the finals, it's got to be because their offense is legit.
Everybody else is going to be locked in. There's not a lot of drama besides COVID and you not really knowing the lineup of if you're even playing a game or if they're postponed 5 minutes before a game starts. All other teams are going to be locked in. There's just so much drama and so much ego in the Nets right now that I'm just maybe once James Harden comes, they all click and they live happily ever after. But
I don't think so. That's the thing. I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, I think it's just going to create more issues. We know that Kyrie Irving doesn't like taking a back seat.
Yeah.
And so it's
what was that quote that he said about LeBron?
Yeah, I have it here because I literally had a segment. I had like segments set for today. I had a whole bunch of stuff, and then
like breaking news, James Harden.
And then James Harden was just like, no, I'm gonna be traded now. He
said something about LeBron once, and it was just like, something about being a shooter, or like this.
It was one thing I've always been. He said one thing I've always been comfortable with. I felt like I was the best option on every team I played for down the stretch. I can't read, you guys. And then he said this is the first time in my career I've looked down and be like, that MFer can make that shot too. And he'll probably do it a lot easier. It's not so much deferring, because in past situations where I didn't take the last shot, I felt guilty. I want this game-winning shot. But also, you want to trust your teammates. Not that I didn't trust my teammates, but I felt like I was the best option. And LeBron was like,
because LeBron James can't be trusted to take the last shot. Okay.
Kyrie's been talking to Skip a little bit.
Yes, for real.
So the whole topic for today, because the phone from me asked, what is the topic for today? I apologize. The entire topic for today was James Harden. We had different segments, but we just spoke about James. Sidra, I hope you join me again because I have so many questions for you.
I'm down. You
all right.
know my schedule.
Can you imagine that we like fill the entire half hour just speaking about the man that is James Harden? And the
did we actually? Damn.
We did. And I'm going to say my prediction, I'll say that they make it out the East, but I'm not confident about it. I'm not confident about it.
If they click, I think they make it out the East.
To me, I think it's more so an issue of like, do they get another big? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, is there someone on the buyout market? Can they do something? Because if it's just DeAndre for you there, I don't know that I trust it for them. But I have learned in life to never question Kevin Durant. And for that reason,
never.
Like, I just think he's the best player in the conference, and I'm just going to bet on the best player in the conference, regardless of if they have James Harden or not. But I also James Harden's improving on Kyrie. Like, I don't know. Do you move Kyrie to the bench? Like, Kyrie just becomes like...
If you move Kyrie to the bench, that team becomes toxic.
Okay, I don't think you move him to the bench. I think you start him, but I think you have to like stagger their lineups where you're not playing James Harden and Kyrie so much together, and you're like, mix and match in there. Does that make sense? Like stagger them, like you start both of them, but then you have to like stagger it so that you're never having a minute without James Harden and Kyrie, because if you play them together, the ball's out of Kyrie Irving's hands. I don't think Kyrie wants that, right? Like I think Kyrie will pout, and I think you're just going to get locker room issues. He's going to say things to the media and a whole bunch of other stuff because he wants the ball in his hands. That's how he plays, and he's really good at it. But the only problem is James Harden is better at it. So they're going to want to...
Don't let Kyrie hear you say that.
I'm so sorry. Kyrie said he needed
help. If you're
watching
watching the morning tip off with Imman.
Kyrie said he needed help. And you know what the Nets did? They went out and got a guy that he could help.
Yeah. I mean, they're coming out the East, I think.
James to the bench. James is not going to no bench. He did not get traded.
No, he's not going to.
I don't want them to go to the bench. That's just going to be a disaster. Like they're gonna have an issue. But like 6-man James Harden, I mean, hey now, it's when he won 6 men of the year. Honestly, trophy James.
As a fan, I'm down to watch. I'm down to watch this happen. It's like an experiment. We get to see what's happening. We get to see an experiment in real life.
Fun.
I'm down. I'm down. The Lakers are still going to win at the end of the day. This is the most actually, as unpredictable as the season is, it's still predictable. If the Lakers are healthy and health and safety protocols are fine, the Lakers are winning. Boring season.
Not fine, which is nothing I wanted to talk to you about. But to me, it's like the Lakers, I think you're exactly right. Like, this is an unpredictable season, but it's also really predictable. Like, the final goal we know is that it's LeBron James holding up the Larry O.B., but everything that happens in between there, who knows? Like, do the Clippers make the conference finals or no?
Yeah.
If they do, can they push the Lakers? Can they even beat? Like, that could be a question. Like, I don't know. That could be a matchup that's probably the one matchup where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what can happen. And then in the East, it's like, do the Bucks finally make the well, I guess they made the conference finals in 2019. But like, do the Bucks can they make it past the East?
We just fought Bucks fans. I'm gonna say no.
Can the Sixers make the conference finals?
No.
Do your Pistons make a conference final? I'm kidding. All right, guys.
Thank you guys your Pistons.
And thank you so much, Sidra, for joining. I would love to have you on again to actually ask you the questions I had prepared for you.
Thanks for having me.